Namaskar, this is Dr. Jawahar Surisetti and welcome to the UN 75 Dialogues. I, for one, would like to start this dialogue process by speaking on various issues which the UN after 75 years feels relevant to the world. So we'll be speaking to eminent people from across the world in various aspects. Today, the aspect is the peace of future. So how does the peace of the world look in future? And that's a very important aspect because the genesis of the whole conflict situation in various parts of the world uh, puts a question mark on the existence itself. So who better than Swami Chidrupananda from Chinmay Mission? I remember 1992, if I am not wrong, Chinmayanand Swami was invited to the UN for a speech. It is very relevant that when a person in those early years is remembered by the UN to be able to talk something about the peace, disarmament, the way forward, that is 28 years before. It's also relevant that the same mission speaks about what will happen to the world 25 years hence. So that's the relevance of Swami Chidrupananda, a good friend, well-known thinker. He speaks a lot on issues which affect the society and a good human being. So, Swami Chidrupananda, namaste.
Namaskar, namaskar.
So today, what we will, the format is very simple. We will converse with each other and we'll try to shed light on whatever we know in what is happening in the world, what has happened 25 years before and what is going to happen 25 years hence in terms of the peace and conflict situation in the world. So for one, I don't know how you feel about this. What is this thing about inner peace and outer peace?
That's nice. Inner peace, when we speak about it, one is peace within himself, with his mind, with his environment, with his relationships inside, and with his thoughts. When those no anxiety, stress, and strain, full of confidence, there's some kind of peace is there within. Peace without, when we speak about it, in fact, unless, as Swami Chinmayanand says very beautifully, you brought him, that you reminded me also that Puja Gurudev spoke in UN long back in 92. And no, Gurudev says, unless, there is a beautiful statement Swami Chinmayanand would make. He says, I want peace. Everybody says, I want peace. And he always says, when you remove I and want, what remains is peace. Meaning what? I is extreme selfishness, ego, that I become the center of everything. So priority is I in life, ego is in life. And that is one problem. Second is desires, greed. So when these two, or Swami Chinmayanand would say, if you remove from individual and then live for totality and society, there will be peace within. And in the outside peace to be established, there must be demonstration of peace by peaceful individuals, number one. And all those factors which disturb peace in society must be addressed. When this is done, for example, there is a law food for shortage of food and shortage of many things in life and society, and there is no justice and no proper law, naturally people will revolt. So it is the responsibility of the elected governments across the world and of course the intelligentsia people and everybody to establish peace. Means what? To bring kind of justice in system in the society. I think if these two are achieved, and definitely there will be peace in the outside world. But then unless individual changes, the world will not change.
Okay.
So therefore,
it has to be inner to outer.
Inner to outer. Yes,
Okay.
Inner to outer.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done a survey very lately, last week, by a major daily Dainik Bhaskar on the situation in this COVID-19 thing, pandemic. And when children are not going to school, so what are the stresses building inside the children? What are the stresses building inside the parents? So we've done a survey. we see that 37% increase in the stress in children. So does that anyway increase the anger in children, reduce the peace in the children and the homes in the parents, etc.?
Yeah, their reactions are increasing. We have seen in society because, yesterday also I was suggesting just yesterday morning only I got a call, a child about 4 or 5 year old, and then he's restless and then he's fighting and angry. Yesterday only I counseled the father. Just I told him, if possible, without getting him out of the car, I told him to take him outside and to at least 1 or 2 visits to friends' houses where safety is there, and make the child meet other children. Otherwise, he will go mad. And therefore, this is seen in society right now across the world. The children are extremely stressed, and especially not only forget about because of the Zoom classes or online classes and all that, they're also stressed out, and therefore, it has to be addressed very clearly at the earliest, and by parents itself. And if possible, I mean, if possible, I'm very cautioning that a minimum interaction with the children, if possible, if it is done, their stress levels will come down.
Okay, so how sane is it that the world is fighting a pandemic? The whole world is affected. There is unemployment. There is a economic loss everywhere. How sane is it for countries to fight between themselves in this situation?
And what can I say? That is unintelligent way of living in the world. Okay. Especially this is the time where international cooperation should exist. Jawharji, the first basic fact for all of us to understand is that, I don't know how to drive this point through education only, of course, that we are all one community on the globe called planet Earth. And there must be a cooperation between the nations, between the states within the country, between the people, between the members of the family. And unless this wisdom, as Bertrand Russell beautifully says, very beautiful said, I read an article by Bertrand Russell long back, knowledge and wisdom. He says that knowledge is increasing in a society. More the knowledge is increasing, you must have more the wisdom. The wisdom should be more than the knowledge to handle the knowledge by wisdom. What is happening today is wisdom levels are decreasing, and technological knowledge and other kinds of knowledge is increasing, and we don't know how to handle that knowledge. And that is one of the problems seen in the world, is that everywhere knowledge is increasing, I don't have wisdom to handle it. So anything you give me, in my hand, any weapon you give me, or any knife you give me, simple thing, unless this is beautifully handled by wisdom, I don't know, I'll be in trouble, actually speaking. I'll be in trouble. So this internationally, we must see that this is ensured properly, that kind of wisdom levels are to be increased through proper education right from the children level. I think eventually, if we do this step, eventually 25, 30, 40 years down the line, there will be a change in perception among the people in the world towards country, towards society, towards communities, etc.
Swamiji, I have an interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
I was in one of the very, very mufassil areas of a state in India, which was purely tribal. And I was with the education minister of that particular state. There were, since the minister was there, a whole lot of bureaucrats were also there. And there were around 2,500 boys and girls of 11th and 12th standard in that audience. So the program was, Kya banoge munna munni? So what will you become in life? And each one of them was telling, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I and the minister were sitting. The minister gave a fantastic introduction of myself and why he had brought me to that place. So one boy finally got up and put his hand on his hip and stood in a very rowdy-ish way and said, I want to become a Naxalite. I want to become a terrorist. So all the children started laughing because this was an unusual answer. Then the bureaucrats, the DEO, the secretary, everybody were flabbergasted because this was happening in front of the minister. So they started scolding him, the teacher, principal, everybody. This boy started crying. I said, see, why are you disturbing him? I asked him a question. He gave me an answer. Let me find out what is behind that. So when I spoke to him, he was crying. When I spoke to him, he came out and said, sir, I am in 11th standard. And the policy makers, I went to nearest computer center which was run in a government school. Hmm. So I went to the center and said, I want to learn computers. I want to make my career in computers. The center head said, the policy says that for girls it is free till 12th, for the boys it is free till 10th. At that time, that was the rule. So he said, you have to pay 10,000 rupees if you want to study. You are in 11th standard. There is no government scheme. He tried to argue, that boy, that the girls go and get married early. They don't use these qualifications. Why are you teaching them free? Why are you not teaching the boys? He said, that's a policy. I can't help it. So the boy went home that night and sat through the night and said, my father's annual income is 10,000 rupees. So if he pays it for my computer, then what will the others do in the house? What will we eat? So let me go to a career where training is free, equipment is free. And that's how he came to a logical conclusion that terrorism or Naxalite is what I should become. See, the thought process was so logical of the boy that we should appreciate. Only thing is, when we make policies, whether the policy is addressed towards making peace with the society or not is something we don't think. The boy's question was relevant. Why only girls? Why not us? And that day the minister announced that till 12th computers has to be free for boys and girls. But do we need such wake-up calls to make policies so that the welfare of the society is at? So this is something that I remembered when you said that we should train the young boys and girls. Something that the governments also need to do is try to make welfare policies which reaches to the last man. And we don't look at the last man when we make our policies. We sit in our rooms and make. Usually this is what used to happen. But having said that, sir, in conflict zones, we see the suffering that is happening. And if the suffering is happening on both sides, both the countries are suffering, then is there no remorse or anything in the part of the countries?
See, Jawharji, you all know, most of the wars which are waged are political in nature, not exactly need-based or power-based also. You find in some of the places in the country, in the world, it is only political, to prove some kind of statement, to gather some kind of support within the country. You have to show something action, so diverting the public attention. These are the reasons where governments are working, and sometimes they are waging wars to other countries also. There are some cases where genuine land grab or genuine things, maybe their countries may fight each other and all. But the question is, what I'm asking is that unless the people in the government, you take, for example, planetary movement, you take the health of the planet, you take environment, you take anything, you take, unless and until there is a sense in all the governments across the world that we actually have to make way for a better future for our children, for our youth, and for would-be coming generations, unless that sense of priority is induced in them, they will take such policies which will ruin themselves and their countries, the nature, the environment, and also eventually the planet also could be eroded from all its beauty and the infrastructure, natural infrastructure that we have. So therefore, there is a remorse is required. But the question is, Jawharji, remorse comes only when you are educated, when you are thinking about it, your consequences of the present into future, in the future. Unless I think of my actions in the present, how it will affect me and my family and society in future, I will not be able to think magnanimously for the benefit of everybody, because I am trained to think only for short-lived purposes and short ways and short means, etc. I think remorse should be there, but remorse will be there only in a sensible person. In an utterly clouded mind, the remorse also will be absent.
Okay, so are we saying that the current generation of people who are ruling the countries or maybe who are in the positions of power are not in a position to think on what to hand over to the future generation?
See, I will not say there are some countries where the political leadership, some leaders in every country, they not only bad is ruling.
Okay.
Everywhere there is a mixture of good and bad. But what I just wanted to ask you is that there must be intelligentsia in the society, in the country, in every country, those intelligent people should raise voice and influence the decisions of the government intelligently, so that focus is always on future of the planet, future of the humanity. This has to be done.
Okay, but is it a fact that most of this intelligentsia behaves very selfishly towards more materialistic gains and not towards the society? Me, myself, my children, my family, my company, my corporate gains, etc.
Yes, yes, you're right. And 100% is not like that, of course, here
Okay.
also. That's why I told you, Jawharji, wisdom is something different from mere knowledge and intelligence. So wisdom we need. Wisdom means what, how to apply that intelligence in a given period, which will eventually benefit one and all. That is wisdom.
Okay. So let's assume 25 years from now,
Yeah.
which is UN 75 now, UN 100 then. How do you visualize the world to be more peaceful or more conflict ridden?
Now, based on this present situation only, we can project for 25
Yes,
years.
yes, yes.
Now, as of now, the trends, as we are all seeing the global trends, good and bad, both sides are in this. The good side will be, I tell you, because of the technological age, and then the comforts that which we are getting accustomed to through science and technology. The world will be, in one sense I'm talking, one sense will be richer. Of course, in medical side we'll become healthier also, because the longevity is increasing.
Yes.
And we become better educated because the knowledge is available to everybody, and more what do you call with kind of this one, more urbanized and better connected. But I tell you one thing, disparity will increase if we don't address the poverty, ill health among the downtrodden and the weaker sections of society. So this, if we don't address that, the disparity, the gap will increase in the next coming 25 years, and more the time, more the gap will be created. So therefore, there will be certain crisis. Of course, water crisis might be there down the 25 years, and there could be wars because of water, because of what already we have started quarreling for water regions. And if we don't learn to conserve natural resources right from now, how to conserve natural resources and utilize them intelligently, there will be wars, I told you. And of course, the gap between haves and have-nots will increase. Therefore, threat to environment is likely to take place down the line. Already 5G is coming, and there are so much of alarming is going on all over the world, that certain people are raising voices about 5G technology is not good for health. It has a lot of health hazards and all. But some people insist that should come. And that's called advancement. Yesterday only somebody was telling that only digital. I said, I was just sharing a thought, Jawharji. I'm just telling you, there must be, if possible, is technology should be increased without bringing into radiation into picture. Is it possible that technology in future can be developed? Because the more the radiation we are bringing through satellites and through phones and through systems and all telecommunications and communication networks and all that, that these radiations are creating hazards. So if you want to progress also, we must discover some other technology perhaps in future if we come about, without bringing into this kind of radiation levels are reduced, clean energy is increased. All these things should be done. So therefore, I would see down the 25 years line, there will be a lot of positive side, and also negative side also will be there. A lot of challenges will increase, and I don't know how we cope up. And sometimes if you think about that picture, it becomes scary, because we all definitely live at least 15, 20 years, 25 years more, hopefully, and that will be scary picture.
Okay, so you are afraid that the situation might not be very conducive.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Pollution levels, pollution levels. You see,
Pollution levels.
levels. Yeah,
Okay.
everything.
So let's say 25 years from now, the pollution levels will be alarming. There will be a lot of technology, a lot of radiation, a lot of harm.
Yeah.
What is it that we need to do today onwards to see that that kind of situation does not come?
I tell you one thing, Jawharji, you are an educationist. I am also in the field of teaching. I can't understand one thing even today. Even one thing. How can you expect an effect without a cause? There must be a cause, then only effect will be seen.
Yes.
Now, one thing we are throughout the globe, I'm telling you, throughout the globe, here and there, maybe here and there, but throughout the globe in general, we are actually not teaching our children what is to be taught. Today, if you start teaching respect for nature, respect for Mother Earth, I saw a cartoon there, the child sitting before a computer and he is playing in a what beautiful computer only. There's a green grass and the moon is there, the sun is there, and the plenty of trees are there, nature around. And that child says, screams to mother, "Mummy, you just see how beautiful, in a beautiful lawn I'm playing." And mummy appreciates it. "Yes, beta, yes." Meaning what? That's too artificial we are becoming. There's no contact between the nature and the child. Earlier we used to play in the mud, get a roll in the mud, the touch between nature. So therefore, what we need is respect towards the education should be given to children, respect for humanity, respect for nature, respect for conservation of energy. See the planet Earth as a being, not as a dead matter. So this teaching when we give, right from I was just thinking also, if across the world, can we have one subject common, which teach from LKG to degree or post graduation, one subject common. Slowly make them enrich, grow them in the subject. What is subject? It could be that subject, whatever you name it, what that subject which respects love for nature, love for earth, sensitivity should be increased, and understanding that we are citizens of this planet, we are one. No differences of any caste, creed, religion. We are one humanity existing and surviving on planet. This kind of a thoughts, if you keep on pumping them into it, definitely there will be a sensitivity. People will be high sensitivity will be there in future, where they respect the nature also, they respect people also, they respect values, they respect life, other life. Otherwise, this cause is not there. Suddenly, we expect after post graduation, we never taught him what is ABCD of life. Suddenly, we expect him to be honest, to be sincere, to be sensitive, to be very corrupt-free individual. How is it possible? We are not taught about all these things.
Sir, it will be relevant if I talk about our project, which is being inaugurated on 2nd of October, on the 150th anniversary of Gandhiji. It is called GPeace, and the UN has been informed of this. It is done, it's my project. The project is of Religion of Youth, we call this. And it's a project which is known as GPeace. GPeace is Gandhi Peace Education and Center for Environment. So this is what you have said makes big sense to me. And what we are planning there is we are building it on a 50-acre land. I'll share that with you. And we want to bring children there as an excursion. All school children will come there and they will do some role playing. They will play with nature. It's in the nature. They will play with nature and all this computer grass and all that. I want to get them away from it, from the mobiles, everything for 1 week. And at the end of that week, I'll certify them because a certificate is what the parent wants to see. So for that matter, I'll do it. But I want to put the children into a natural surrounding where they learn how to resolve conflicts between themselves, how to play with environment. So GPeace is for the first time in the world an institution that is not working on conflict resolution at the research or doctoral level. We are wanting to work with school children. And that is the basic thought behind GPeace. It's a huge project. I think by 2025, I will be ready with the project, but we are starting this 2nd October. So I thought it's relevant to inform this to you.
Congratulations, Jawharji, for a beautiful project it is. I love to see it. Even I want to also spend time away from computer and mobile for 10 days or 15 days there.
Yes. So carrying forward what you have mentioned, now let's go back to conflict and the shape that it used to be in the past and it will happen in future. Now earlier we had guns, we had planes, we had ships, we had all that. Now we are listening about biowarfare where you send viruses into water, etc. Or maybe we talk about cyber warfare. We have cyber cells in India also who are trying to build up traction so that if somebody attacks our internet, then how we are not affected. So we'll have cyber warfare in future. So the shape of war is going to change. It becomes less intrusive. People don't need to come to you to wage a war. So in that case, how do we see that our next generation is safeguarded?
This is a very, very big question you have asked me. I tell you, if I don't address what I told you in the beginning, educating right from childhood, then other way of combating will begin. So cyber war is there. As you said, there is no question of frontline war, no bombs, all attack economical, virus war, bio war, cyber war, etc. Any other war. Now you are asking, this will be like this. Unless we change from within, the world will be like this. How? Somebody will wage a war. Look at my hand, you can. Somebody will wage a war. So you will train the people how to confront this kind of virus. You will prepare citizens and of your country. Then they will come up with some other program of attacking. Then you will have to develop another antivirus or the program to withstand that attack. Then they will increase another type of situation. Again, this will increase. This kind of game will go on. Till humanity is fed up with this kind of lifestyle, they will have to introspect, then change. The change will come because the nature cannot go like this continuously. I don't know, but down the 100 years or 200 or 300 or 500, I don't know. But this kind of a thing, there's no question of love and compassion. Nothing is there. You are trying to attack me. I must, bring out some kind of technology within me, within my purview, so that you defend your kind of attack. Then you will come up with some other higher attack. Then I will have to increase my also system of technology and knowledge to attack, to defend that particular. This kind of tamasha goes on. I don't see any replacement. I mean, any kind of reduction in this kind of thought until and unless we change.
So are you meaning to say that defense budgets will keep going on because of our competition within each other?
Already, Jawharji, in the present scenario of the war, every country is pumping huge money, and some neighboring countries that every neighboring country of every country, most of the places in all the world, how they disturb the economy. By simply increasing the defense budget of the neighboring country is enough that they are unable to focus on agriculture, on medicine, health, security, education. That's enough. The money is diverted. This is another chip. I can't grow, so therefore I pump 2-3 bombs and increase militants, etc. Then you will spend all your budget only on defending that. Then I feel happy that your country is not growing.
There are historical events which have changed people. For example, Ashoka saw a war and then he changed himself. He became a Buddhist monk and all that. I for one have been a part of one such incident in Jammu and Kashmir when UNICEF said that you please go and see how is the war zone there. Schools were closed. People were bombing from the other side, and schools had big holes on the roofs. So children were obviously not going to school. So then we thought, how do we come out with a solution so that children at least get the minimal education that they should get. They are sitting in their home, schools are closed. So then there are two companies like Videocon gave us some TVs and VCRs at that time. And we used technology, and Mahindra gave us some buses. So we created schools in the buses. And then the local unemployed youth, which is again a major issue in Kashmir. These unemployed youth who were educated were employed. So one became a driver, one became a conductor. They were educated, employed by us. 1,200 rupees we used to pay them. They would drive the bus to a district where the children would sit in the bus. These driver and conductor are educated people. So they would teach the children. And food will be provided by the village. Again, they moved after 2 days to the next district. So in a week, we used to cover 3 districts, and we had 7 such buses. So it was such a fantastic experience of use of non-intrusive technology where no radiation, nothing. But we were able to reach out to children and at least give them a minimal amount of education. And they also understood that there was an effort going on, and we were creating employment for those unemployed youth in the. So I am saying, if these are scenes that are created where there are holes in the walls of schools, or the schools are converted into bunkers for the military, is there no Ashoka in our politicians or leaders in the world that they will transform themselves into peaceniks?
First of all, you must ask a question. Why did Ashoka change?
Okay.
After the Kalinga War, huge people died and so many people. You know, you use one word, remorse. He could not see with his own eyes so much of bloodshed, so many people, innocent soldiers got killed, both the sides, and then triggered him thinking that what did I gain in this war? What did I achieve ultimately? Except destruction everywhere, and the river of blood is flowing. That seeing that, he has changed. So at least there is a sensitivity degree. The sensitivity was tapped in him after some kind of destruction. Similarly, everybody, you, me, everyone has some degrees of sensitivity. We can bear up to some extent, but at some time it pierces and it changes us. My question to you is that should we learn lessons so costly in this world today, in spite of the great spiritual teachers all over the world, from all across all countries, across all religions? They are teaching the consequences of this kind of lifestyle, consequences of disrespecting the nature and society and humanity, and lack of cooperation between nations. They are all actually showing us on the paper, saying this will be the route. If you don't do this, this will be the condition. If you don't do this, this will be the condition. Should we learn costliest lessons like this? Can't we follow that wisdom?
Tuition fee is very high in this case.